invoking the spirit of the great masters of the timeless traditions from so many different cultures, manifesting as the embodiment of the Guru spirit that enables us to grow, invoking that spirit to guide us on our path. Those who know the Guru Gayatri can join in with me. If not, you can just listen and let the vibrations pass through you in a healthy, harmonious manner. When Kalavati asked me some time back, do you want to give a talk? I said, why not? That's what I've been doing since the age of 4, and well before that, but around the age of 4 we realized that I just had an on button and no off buttons. And now I get all my karma back with my son, who does the same. So often I'm like, my mother says, okay, you want to know what karma is? Look at that little guy. You get to understand it. And then she said, okay, what do you think a topic could be? I'm like, well, I go to medical conferences talking to doctors about health benefits of yoga. I talk to yoga teachers about different techniques. I talk to my patients a lot. In fact, I think one of the most important things I do is talk with my patients, because no doctors today seem to be doing that. When a patient walks in and you say, get your x-ray done and your MRI done and your CT scan done and these blood tests done, and do you really have to be a doctor to do that? Anybody can do that. And the art of medicine, as I call it, has been lost in modern times a lot, because it takes a lot of heart. You need a heart to practice the art of medicine. You just need a brain that functions to a certain level to practice the science of medicine. Same thing has happened to yoga in its own way. We have got caught up with the science of yoga, and the latest book on that talks more about the negativity of the science than the positivity of it. Well, there's a lot of positivity, and of course, any human endeavor will have its pros and cons, and one needs to understand that we need a great deal of awareness and consciousness, responsibility, if we are going to live a life of yoga. So the moment the topic came up, he said, okay, this, and then I said, yeah, okay. Yoga is a way of life. What is life? It is the experience we have as an individual. It is the experience we have as a living entity who thinks we are an individual. It is the experience that we have as a body endowed with a spirit, or a spirit endowed with a body. It is the experience we have, and the sum of each and every experience we have from the moment we are born till the moment we leave the body. There are ups, there are downs. There are days you wonder why you were ever born. There are moments when you are like, is it really worth it? It's good to have those moments. In fact, I often tell my students that it is in these moments of despair, in the moments of dejection, depression, usually self-engineered, it is at those moments that, as my father would so beautifully say, there is an opportunity for a breakthrough to occur. And he often said a breakdown, especially nervous, a nervous breakdown is an opportunity for a breakthrough if we are ready and able to recognize it as such. My mind goes to the very first recorded counseling session in human history. You wonder what I'm talking about. I'm not saying the very first. I think the first must have been when Adam and Eve had their troubles. The first recorded one, which is in fact a beautiful scripture known as the Yoga Vashishta. The Yoga Vashishta is an absolutely beautiful life lesson in poetry, in prose, in stories. Because if you want to get points across, the best thing to do is tell stories. And during the 6 months that our students stay with us in the ashram, they say Dr. Ananda takes a class that is mantra, yantra, tantra, and his storytelling class. That's how it's known. Dr. Ananda and his stories, and I find stories everywhere. Stories are a beautiful way to get concepts across, and Aesop fables that are mirrored by the Indian tradition of Jataka tales, especially to animals, because an animal can do something stupid, say something stupid, and it doesn't really, we are fine, okay, yeah, it's just an animal, and so we're able to take it a bit easily than if you had human beings saying and doing the things that the animals say and do. The Yoga Vashishta has stories within stories within stories within stories. And there's so much of a mine of information in it if one searches. Because this was delivered by a great seer, a rishi called Vashishta. Now, the sage is Vashishta, the scripture is Vashishta. Now, there's a slight difference, the elongated A as opposed to the shortened A basically. And what happens is that this is the stories and all the teachings that Vashishta gives Lord Rama. Lord Rama is said to be an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, the sustainer, the conservatory energies of the universe, those energies that keep things going. In modern terms, I call Vishnu the maintenance engineer. And because maintenance takes a lot of money, he has as his wife Lakshmi who has all the money. These energies are put together in a very beautiful manner when you think about them. What happens is that Vishnu gives a very beautiful assurance to his devotees. He says, whenever righteousness dims and the unrighteous are, on the upswing, well, you see a lot of that these days in the world. Even in the few weeks I've been away from home, I've been surprised what's been happening in the world. It's quite astonishing, the low levels we go to and still call ourselves humans. But Lord Vishnu gives an assurance. He says, Yada yada hi dharmasya, whenever dharma is righteousness. Now, if you ask my father what is righteousness, or rather my mother, they would say it is the right useness. Using everything that we have been given, that we have, all our faculties as they are meant to be used. Right useness. And in fact, my father often defined yoga as the science of right useness, the science of righteousness. Not the modern, he's so self-righteous. It's not the negative aspect of it. But doing that which needs to be done in the way it needs to be done, at the time and moment it needs to be done, for the people it needs to be done. All these pieces sort of have to fit together. Doing the right thing at the wrong time, no, not dharma anymore. Right thing at the right place, in the right time for the wrong person, again you have gone off. It's like going through one of these mazes that we play as children. You go up and you get them, no, dead end, get back. Okay, another one, dead end back. And then, you get that and finally you get through. You just negotiate all those points. That is what dharma is. Often it's translated as religion and other things, but dharma is righteousness. At the personal level, dharma is responsibility. Now, what is responsibility? The ability to respond in the appropriate manner. Normally, what happens is that our nervous system is wired in such a way that all the signals that say come from my feet, they come into my spinal cord at a certain level. Impulses that come, say, from my thorax come at a different level, impulses from my arms at another level, and all these sensory impulses come in at the different levels of your spinal column, different spinal nerves being used. We have something called a reflex arc. Now, what does a reflex arc do? The moment I give a stimulation at a certain level of your spinal column, there is a reaction that is set off, a reflex, at the same level. This is the beauty of your nervous system. It's very beautiful. So, when I tap, for example, your patellar tendon right here, gently with a soft hammer, not one of those big hammers. And it's quite funny when we do this, medical studies. You tap it, you just tap it in such a way. What happens is that you have a knee-jerk reflex. We talk about people having, a knee-jerk reflex. I'm coming to that. You have to be very careful when you elucidate this. Because I've had fellow students, I don't know how they ever got into medical school, but anyway, fine. Who have stood in front of the people and tried to do this, and what happened. They learn not to do it. What happens is that the reflex works at the same level. You have a corneal reflex, you put a bit of a cotton piece from the side while I'm not seeing, I'm looking straight, and you put it and you have a blink. Okay? Same thing. You can have it. You can have it in your biceps, you can have it in your... virtually every different point in your body you can test it, right from your soles, the plantar reflex. Which if it goes the other way, it means, you have a problem with your nerves. Or, especially if people have had a stroke, you check this up to find at which level the stroke has happened. Well, we used to take an hour to do this and find it out, and nowadays they just do a scan and they say, yeah, it's here. And you lose that which you have not used. And that's why clinical skills have become very rare, except in places like India where you're out in the middle of nowhere, you don't have a scan, you have nothing to fall back on, and that's where you develop your clinical skills. My work for more than 5 years in the villages taught me a lot of that. Hospital units, it's different. What happens with these reflexes? The reflex arc is at the same level. So, you have something called a reaction. You punched me, I punch you back. That's a reaction. You are nasty to me, I'm going to be nasty to you. You poked me, I poked you. You were good to me, I'm good to you. You smiled at me, I smiled at you. What is this? Reactivity, reaction. But then, if you allow this signal to come up and not just immediately react, most of the time we overreact also. That's the other risk we have. When we test the reflexes, sometimes it's exaggerated reflexes. Someone just said hello and you punch them in the nose for that. It's like, what? And often you break any argument down to its essentials and you're like, were we fighting for that? It's called hindsight. Our eyes are on the front, but we have a lot of hindsight. You know what happens is this reaction is occurring. It's more of a reflex. It is no consciousness has come in at all. It's just at that level. And it's very fast. But then, if you just give a gap, they say, take a deep breath and count to 10. And now some email companies are starting to do that. Give you a small gap of 5 or 10 seconds so that you can withdraw your email that you had just been nasty to someone. Why be nasty in the first place? But anyway, we have, someone said something and even we don't even say, okay, let me think about it and respond tomorrow. No, it's like, how dare you? And then you send it and you're like, oh my God. Cut the cable. No, it's gone. Too late. I had a friend who used to tell me about a certain group of Indians who are the bravest, strongest, and yet are the ones who get the most jokes about them. It's quite interesting that I found them to be the most heartful, loving people. But he used to be in my hostel and any fight in the hostel, this guy would be down there in 2 seconds, hitting everybody, beating everything, and you were like, SP, what are you doing? And he said, Ananda, I cannot help myself. He said, I do, and then I think. And it was beautiful that he had the consciousness to know what was happening. And well, that is the first step, which I'll talk about a bit later. Now, if you just give a bit of gap, this signal travels up your spinal cord to your brain. That wonderful creation of the divine. And you start to analyze the pros and cons. You start to analyze what is the context in which something is happening, being said or not being said, done or not done. And then you know what happens? You start to respond. You see, a few minutes ago, I was nearly reacting. I was like, Kalavati didn't bring me a cup of tea. How am I going to survive in this cold? I could have reacted and, Kalavati, you haven't done this and how dare you not do it? And now I kept quiet and kept doing what I should do. Okay, that is keep my mouth shut and just talk, sense, or hopefully sense differences. And what happened is the moment I did that, I got my key. It's called jumping the gun. Last time in the Olympics, a couple of the fastest guy on earth, and that's what they call these guys within the 100 meters. Fastest over 100 meters, what they call him, Bolt. Interestingly, the name Bolt, it's just beautiful how life, speaking of life, puts things. In the World Championship, the guy jumped the gun, lost a chance. You'd have won otherwise. But now what happens the moment you give a gap, and I'm going to come back again and again to this gap. Because this gap is the gap of objectivity. It is the gap where consciousness can now come in. It is the window through which consciousness comes in. The brain is the receptor for this consciousness to come in. And the moment you have that, you respond in an appropriate manner. And that is responsibility. So dharma as responsibility, dharma as righteousness. And what does Krishna, Vishnu say? Whenever righteousness dims and the unrighteous are exalted, I shall come back again for the sake of humanity. And so many avatars, you may call them. Interestingly, the movie Avatar had the blue people. And the best part I loved about that movie is that it was we human beings. Usually it's the aliens attacking Earth, but here it was Earthlings going out and doing something. Something nasty. It was beautiful. Avatars have come in so many forms. Normally we talk of the 10 avatars of Lord Vishnu, but avatars have come in so many forms and they continue to come. It is just usually these avatars are not recognized by most people until they have come and gone. And then, oh, yeah, that person was good. Or whatever. I told you hindsight. We are blessed with hindsight. Very few are cursed with foresight. Foresight is a curse, and I maintain that always, because you see things people will never see. They'll see it in 10 years, and because nobody can see it, you become the outcast. You are cast out. You become the forerunner. The forerunner becomes the foreigner because you don't belong in the well anymore. You have gone out of the well. You know what lies out of it. And those who are in the well will never believe you, come what may. But anyway, a very beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says it. Yada yada hi dharmasya planya bhavati bharata abhyudhana dharmasya tadatmanam sujanvaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanataya sambhavami yuge yuge sambhavami yuge yuge sambhavami yuge yuge yuge, the different time periods, I shall come back. And so Rama is an avatar of Vishnu, said to be the perfect man. Well, I don't know whether such a man will exist, but anyway, he is said to be the perfect man. What a human being can be. In tune with dharma, righteousness and responsibility. But Rama as a young teenager goes through what all of us have gone through, and those troubled teen years. And so Rama's down in despair. What's life all about? And he has a few of the spiritual questions. Actually, most teenagers have very spiritual questions. It's just that because nobody provides answers, they are said to be troubled teens. But actually, there's some very beautiful spiritual questions come out. I deal a lot with the young kids, and some of them ask me questions which really get my brain cells popping open like popcorn. Pop, as I start to try to find answers for them. And that is when his father, Dasharatha, calls their guru, sage Vashishta, and says, please help this guy. Can you counsel him? And the first counseling session of human history, recorded counseling session, I correct myself, is this beautiful scripture where why life happens, what is life about, what are the lessons we learn, what is disease. Psychosomatic disorders are elucidated in great detail in this text, which is at least 5,000 years now. We as human beings have trouble with 100 years because that's the maximum we generally live. When we talk about 5,000, it's like... And then today we were in the Natural History Museum, and you find the millions and millions and millions of years, and then you put the human race in a bit more better context. 5,000 years ago, he talks about the psychosomatic disorders. They are called Adi, Vyadi. Vyadi is the disease in the body. Adi is where it starts in the mind and above the mind. These agitations that come down through our physiology, our psychology, into the body are so beautifully discussed. Adi cha Vyadi. He says when the Adi starts, that is the root cause, these agitations, they come down through the unstable. First of all, you have the mental agitations. You feel a bit jittery, you feel a bit nervous, anxious, or depressed. These things happen. And then it comes down through the layers of the energy channels, the nadis, where the unstable nadis and these energies are flowing in a haphazard manner. Finally settling down through the digestive system. The digestive system, in all traditional aspects of medicine, they give great importance. That disease comes through the digestive system. Either a hyperactivity or an underactivity or some sort of what nowadays we call paraneoplastic syndromes, where the hormones that are not to be secreted, the enzymes that are not to be secreted by different parts of the body, they start to get secreted. And then disease comes. But where does it start? The psychic phase, where there is this agitation coming down through the body, psychosomatic phase, where now your body starts to react. React, not respond. React. And when it starts to react, what happens? Your blood pressure goes up, your blood sugar goes up, your muscles tighten, your digestive system goes haywire, tremors of the body start to occur, muscle spasms. But then if you can set right the root cause, the Adi, you can get back to normal. This is in the psychic and the psychosomatic phases. Now if that continues, it starts to settle into your body, it becomes somatic, and now permanently you have these disturbances. That permanently the blood pressure is high, permanently the blood sugar is high, permanently your muscles have gone out, your digestive system has gone out. And then if you're still not able to rectify it, it settles into your organs. In medical terms, we call it target organ damage, TOD. Where as a result of all of this, an organ starts to go out, your kidneys go out, your heart goes out, your brain goes out. And what has happened is that it has gone into the end stage of the disease cycle. This is discussed in this text. Now, if 100 years, okay, I'll be a bit more generous, 150 years ago, if I had been in the same place, not have been the same, but anyway, and as a medical doctor, if I had said, your mind can cause disease, you know what would have happened? Most probably, I would have been burnt at the stake. That is medical science. Today we understand psychosomatic, stress-based, caused by stress, aggravated, precipitated by stress, that virtually every human disease you think about today, every human disorder you think about today is stress-related. And what is stress? Stress is when we move away from dharma, from responsibility, from righteousness, from alignment, from harmony. When harmony occurs, your mind, body, spirit add emotions to it, because emotions are a very dynamic aspect of us human beings. This entire complex, when it is aligned properly, health occurs. But if malalignment starts, immediately what happens is that thought, word, deed have gone away. You think, I should get up early in the morning and go for a run. And you tell whoever you are with, I'm going to do this. And then what happens? You don't. You say, I know that's bad for me. And there's so much of debate about genetically modified foodstuffs these days. I am not going to eat those things. Well, first of all, you have to know that it's there, right? it's going to be a bit more difficult to know what is where. I'm not even going to tell you the horrible stories about taste enhancers I was telling Kalavati and shocking her today. Organic, biological, natural taste enhancers made from human embryos. Go and look on the net and find that. Pathetic. And it doesn't come on the label because it's organic, it's natural, it's biological. What is more unnatural than that? Huh? See, the thing is that when one is in harmony of thought, word, deed, there's no conflict. But the moment one knows what should be done, in yoga we talk about the three shaktis, the three powers that the intellect has, the buddhi. This buddhi, it is empowered with the power of will, also called intent. Ichcha Shakti. The Ichcha Shakti is you want to do something, you intend to do it, you have the will, that is Ichcha Shakti. It's changed in Tamil to Ishtam, which means something which I like. The second of the powers is Jnana Shakti, the power of wisdom, to know whether it is good or not, to be done or not. And then the third, Kriya Shakti, the power of action. The intent, knowing whether it is good or bad, knowing whether it is to be done or not, healthy, unhealthy, etc. And then the power to do it. When all these three powers, Ichcha, Jnana and Kriya, they are working harmoniously, then what you think, you say, what you say, you do. What you intend to do, you analyze it, and once you know it is the right thing to do, you are going to do it. And you may want to do something, you say, well, it is not really the right thing to do, you don't do it. What has happened is that there has become a harmony manifesting through your life, through every moment of your life, and it's not something that, okay, I was harmonious today between 6 and 7 a.m. It surprises me when people get surprised and I get surprised the reverse way, but Dr. Ananda, how many hours of yoga do you do a day? I'm like, 24 hours. And people are like, what? I said, yeah. Every moment of life is yoga. But we get stuck. Yeah, I did my yoga between 6 and 7 and now the rest of the day I can be in boga, the opposite. Once you awaken to yoga, it is permanent. There's no going back to sleep. I have students come up to me, one of them, a very dear student, and she's like, why did you ever wake me up? It's so painful. It is so painful. And I'm like, well, I had no choice. You were asking to be woken up. Well, sometimes people don't put it in words, but everyone who comes into your life comes with a reason. And I value each and every person who comes into my life, whatever form, whatever way they come. Some come in a very pleasant way, giving me a cup of tea, and some try to give me poison. And then I remember, the greatest of philosophers in Greece had to drink poison, so nothing too bad about that also. And if people think you're worth giving poison to, well, it means that you are doing something good. If there are some people who want to throw stones at you, it means that definitely you are standing up at least. As my father would say, when you stand up, Ananda, I was not a doctor at that time, so it was only Ananda. When you stand up, Ananda, there will be a few people who want to garland you and honor you. And there will be many others who want to throw stones, sticks and rotten tomatoes and eggs at you. And he said, either you get used to both, or you lie down, dig a hole, jump in it and cover yourself with mud. Two choices, that's all. Either you die, stop living, or if you're going to live, be ready for both. Both are imposters. Both are imposters. In yoga we talk about the beautiful concept of raga dvesha. Raga is that which attracts you, dvesha is that which repels you. The likes and the dislikes, both sides of the coin. And you know what? It doesn't matter whether it's the likes or the dislikes, both take you off your balance. You're walking down the path and if it's like, you're taken off. If it's dislike, you're taken off. And that is why a very beautiful verse of the Gita. Raga dvesha viyuktais, to the yogi who has gone beyond raga and dvesha. Both. It's not just, I'll go beyond the raga or the dvesha. No, both. Praise and blame. Like, dislike. Happiness, sorrow. Heat, cold. These are called the dvandvas. The dua, do, dua, two. The two twos. It's a nice way to think of them. The two twos, they're always in couple. They're always in pair. Like and dislike come together. Praise and blame come together. Hot and cold come together. Up and down come together. Sweet and sour come together. You cannot say I'll have one but not the other. It's buy one get one free. That type of arrangement with life. You have no choice. You want one, the other comes. So either you take both or you don't take both. But it's very beautiful because these are the inborn kleshas, the psychological afflictions with which we as a human being have to live this life. It's going to be part of us. Patanjali tells us so beautifully. Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha and abhinivesha. These 5 are the kleshas. They are the inborn psychological afflictions that just by being born as a human being is part of your inheritance as a human being. Ignorance of the real self, a sense of false ego, individuality. I am different than you. Dichotomy, duality. That is the root of all disease. Again, a statement from my father, who used to say, you live in a happy and healthy universe. You live in a happy and healthy universe. Then why are you unhappy and unhealthy? You are nothing but the universe. The microcosm and the macrocosm. And yet, you have moved away from your essential nature, which is happiness and health, harmony, balance, bliss. You can keep on adding words to that. That is our real nature. Someone asked me, Dr. Ananda, are you always happy? A difficult question to answer in an interview, but I said, my essential nature is happiness, is bliss. But then I fall away from my essential nature at times, and then luckily I still have my mother around who gives me a kick in the back and says, get back to your nature. I remember my father's advice on that. He said, remember your name. Your name is Ananda. Ananda means bliss, and if you are anything but bliss, you are not being you. The importance of name in India is very, very well understood. Because what you call somebody influences what they are. It's not just a label. Nama, Rupa. Nama is name, Rupa is form. What you call somebody, when you call somebody darling, 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 you bring out something in them. And if you say, you idiot, you idiot, you idiot, you bring out something else in them. And seriously, this is something we as a human race have forgotten. The importance of what we call ourselves and call others. Because it's vibration. And that is why one has to be careful of the pet names people call each other. Some weird stuff. Then you wonder why the people are like that. You just evoke that. You invoke. Please understand, the power of sound is that you invoke, and when you invoke something within you, you evoke that. We call it evoked potential in science. Neurophysiology, we do a lot of studies in our lab. And what we do is that we have people watch a television. It's crazy, but science likes to be objective, and so we have to have the same type of black and white dots on the screen that people should see, so that everybody sees the same thing. Which Einstein said something like that: if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will think it's stupid its whole life. In India, our education system does that. Everybody's tested like the same thing in order for it to be objective, and amazing talents are allowed to go down that vein. When we look at something like that TV screen, or when we hear something, of course we use beep sounds, beep, 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 and I'm like, can't it be something nice to listen to? It's like, beep, 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 and you're like, come on, shut it off. Now we are testing your auditory evoked potentials. You're like, visual evoked potentials, black and white dots, black and white dots, black and white dots. Can it be something nice and colorful? But anyway, that's science. Make it as uninteresting, and I never learned a single bit of interesting information when I was doing my medical studies. All the interesting bits of medical information I got was after that. Like the mother being the source of all your mitochondria. I never learned that in medicine. After I came out. All your mitochondria, which is your energy powerhouse, is from your mother, not from your father. It's the maternal side that gives it to the child. And that is why the mother is Shakti, powerhouse. Imagine that the great minds of the past could understand that without all these DNA, RNA studies. So, if you have too much energy or less energy, blame or congratulate your mother. Quite a few of these type of things come out. But anyway, getting back here, when you look at something, when you hear something, and the same thing with sensory evoked potentials, when you feel something, usually we give, just like a vibration or like a pinprick or, an electrical stimulus to different parts, the fingers or your ears or your nose or, something. You set off an evoked potential, that is an activation of certain neurons in your brain in certain specific parts. When you see something, it's back here. When you hear something, it is here. And then, depending on which part of the body, it goes along the entire side. The sensory motor homunculus is activated. Now, science that understands when you look at a black and white dot, you do something. When you hear a beep sound, it does something. When you have a stimulus, it does something. This same science doesn't understand that what you call somebody sets off certain patterns in the person's nervous system. And we say, that's not science. Because it's interesting, so it cannot be science, right? Well, I must say that nowadays it's nice to see science being made a bit more interesting for people. I was admiring the Natural History Museum, and this is what children need to see, to have these type of interesting facts put out in a way that is more multi-dimensional rather than just read a book with a few images that still some kids. Well, my daughter was reading about volcanoes from a book, and you never can understand what a volcano is from that two-dimensional image. You see something in a more model, and it comes in. I nearly told her, I didn't, because I used a bit of my consciousness. But I nearly told her when she was talking about volcano, I said, when your mother gets angry, I sort of like, it was at the tip of my tongue, and then I said, be responsible, not reactive. Because then you set off the chain reaction. Reaction begets, and it becomes bigger and bigger. Nuclear reaction. When we are able to harmonize with our essential nature. And what do the great masters of the past and present tell us? They say, the essential nature is Sat, Chit, Anandam. Sat is the reality, often said to be the truth. I have an issue with the truth, because when you say truth, you are like half truths and quarter truths, and truths that were truthful yesterday but not today. You have a bit of that. But the absolute reality, that is Sat. You could call it the absolute truth also if you want, but absolute truth is again my truth and your truth, and it becomes this religious fanaticism that has ruined the world. Chit, consciousness. Now what is this consciousness that we are talking about? The consciousness we are talking about is not just something which is at the level of the intellect and the brain, and I am thinking about the divine, and the divine has come down and I have expanded my consciousness, and now I am elevated, and it's not about that. It's about a consciousness that runs through every cell. Every cell of our body has consciousness. Again, something which even 20-30 years ago I would have been really torn apart by the scientific community for that statement. Today I can get away with it because a few more people accepting it. Every cell has consciousness. Now, what is that consciousness that we are looking at? It is a consciousness that is the same consciousness that is found in the macrocosm, the universe. A consciousness which is of a unitive principle. Now, this is a very important concept. The unitive principle, that everything is ultimately all one. We experience that in our lives many times. We experience it as feeling alone, lonely. And then I realized the trick is not to feel alone, but all one. You just change it a bit and suddenly you realize you're all one. We always admire the people who go someplace the first time and all that. But please understand, they are most of the time alone, because when you have to go and be the first, you really are not going to have a crowd with you. The first people to climb Mount Everest, the first people to go to the North Pole, even at the physical level, I'm not even talking about any spiritual aspects, even just in these attainments. And to be able to feel that sense of all oneness that exists in you, exists in me, and a consciousness that exists through every living being, and then take it a bit further, even the non-living. And to understand that it is the same. When I understand that you and me have the same consciousness going through us, there's no dichotomy anymore. You are not a threat anymore. Where does the threat come in? The moment I say, you are different than me, be it any of the human-made differentiations of color, caste, creed, religion, nationality, language, food, a huge number of these differentiations that we have made. But ultimately, if you can look at the consciousness that runs through each and every being, and also take it a bit further, non-living too. That is the Chit. So the Sat, which is the reality that again manifests through everyone. The Chit, which is the consciousness that manifests through everyone. And the third one is Anandam, is bliss. And this is our essential nature. When we understand that our essential nature is this manifestation of absolute reality, consciousness and bliss, and we start to work in tune with this, harmonize it. Now, how do we harmonize? Well, we have to first become aware of different aspects of our life. That is where it starts, waking up. The moment you wake up, you start to be aware. And where does it start? The awareness of your body. To be aware of what your body is doing, what your body needs, how your body responds, what your body does or doesn't like or does or doesn't do, to understand the limitations and the strength of your body. This is awareness of the body. Now you know, there are people who go into shops, put things in the pockets, and when someone says, "What have you done?" they don't even know their hand went out and took the thing and put it in the pocket. It actually happens. It's not, they're not lying when they say, "I don't know what happened." Because it's sort of, the hand has its own life force. I have had a few of these experiences as a child because we had a big garden with a lot of fruits and other things, and we had a watchman who had to check people because somebody would put something in the pocket and go out. And the look of astonishment on some people's face, how did it get in my pocket? And initially, you think, okay, people are just acting or lying, and then you realize it doesn't even enter the consciousness. I find that with my son and daughter. There are these moments where, my son is just running around and my daughter's like, "He hit me!" And he's like, "I did nothing." But while running around, his hand just goes out on his own and, knocks his sister nicely, gives her a nice punch in the stomach. And it's not that he's lying. It's just that it's so natural for him, blup, blup. And she happens to be in the way, that's all. And then, she has her own things, but anyway, it's not always one-sided, okay? As a parent, you really get a lot of opportunities for learning through your kids. So it's a beautiful, beautiful lesson. And you're like, "What did you do?" And "Nothing." And I said, "He punched me." "Did you punch him?" "No." "Okay, maybe my hand went on its own." And it's fine when it's kids, but when it's adults, and then you get people who are shooting people, throwing bombs, and they don't even know what they're doing. That is pathetic. The people don't grow up at all. It's amazing, actually. It's just amazing. To have awareness of the body, to know where your feet are, where your hands are, where your head is. You find people who just walk through the door and the hands hit the wall and the feet knock over the glass of water, and it's just all happening and no one knows what's happened. It's just no body consciousness at all. And it's just amazing. My father always said the dinosaurs became extinct because the brain was so tiny compared to the rest of the body that the head never knew what the tail was doing. And actually, the more I think about it, it makes sense. It's like modern government departments. One bit doesn't know what the other's doing. And I often think about these huge buses and lorries. And I think of that, it's this huge dinosaur with a small tiny brain controlling it. Worse, the aircrafts. Huge things that you have. Frightening when you think about it, okay? Thankfully, my friend down in Australia who used to be an airline pilot told me that nowadays they just keep the pilots so that the passengers don't panic. He says the planes can take off and land on their own. They don't even need a pilot anymore. He says, if the passengers knew there's nobody in the cockpit, they would panic, and so usually you just have two guys sitting there. It's quite funny. This is Margot's husband. He's a pilot trainer. He tells me some amazing stories that make me a bit scared to fly because the type of guys who become pilots, you're like, do I really want to be up there? I asked him, what is the difference between driving on the roads of Brisbane and being up there? He said, well, there are less madmen up there. That's all. But just imagine, you have people driving around who don't know what their feet are doing. Now your feet are controlling the accelerator, the brake. In India, just 2 days ago, a politician's son, learning to drive, killed someone. Because in his, you could call it inexperience. I just say he doesn't know what his right and left feet are doing, that's all. And instead of hitting the brake, you end up hitting the accelerator and no consciousness. Imagine these same people become surgeons. I often tell the stories of going to medical conferences and teaching people to shake the right hand and now the left. And I say right hand and you have 10 doctors putting up the left hand. Okay. Do I want to be operated by you guys? It's scary. Now you can say, okay, they were not paying attention. You could give a lot of excuses for them. But the inherent root is they're just so unaware. Right and left, people are unaware. So to become aware of the body is the first step on our journey. If we are to regain that sense of harmony. It is called sukham. Sukham is ease. As in asana, sthira, sukham, asanam. An asana is a posture in which you are stable and at ease with yourself. Now, for me, Patanjali's definition of asana is not just the asana, but it's a state of being where you are established in a state where you are stable and at ease with yourself. That becomes your asana. It becomes your perspective and point where you live. Where do you live? That is your asana. Where you are established in a sense of stability and are at ease with yourself. Now you could say, well, you gain it through the asana. When you do a posture, when you start to be steady in it, when you start to have a sense of ease in it, and then you start to transcend the physical effort, which is what Patanjali says. He says, prayatna shaitilya. You relax the effort. Often, I find people doing the asanas. And you're like, nah, asana is not happening. It's not happening. See, the thing is that initially there has to be effort. Now, some people say, Patanjali said, sthira, sukham, asana. He said it should be easy. So don't do any asana, that's tough. You have amazing, I tell you, the interpretations of Patanjali and the Yoga Sutra, the Yoga Vashishta, the Bhagavad Gita. I am astounded by the amazing interpretations that come up on the web. I love the web. All the misinformation and disinformation you can find on it. And then the little bits of information you can also find if you use a bit of your responsibility. It's amazing. Patanjali has advised only to do easy asanas. Where? How? Yeah, he told us not to make an effort. No, he said, relax the sense of effort. Which means you transcend the feeling that I am doing, look at me. No, you go beyond that. You go from doing to being. That is what he has said. And this is the key. Because we as human beings are supposed to be, but we are always doing. Human doings. The Greek philosopher who said, the human race are nothing but featherless bipeds. Walking around on 2 feet. The only thing difference between us and those chickens out there is that we don't have feathers. Basically, he was saying bird brain. And I'm just trying to help you understand the great philosophers of the past. Translate them for you in modern terms. The featherless bipeds, 7 billion and counting. How many human beings are out there? Doing. Because we are defined by what we do rather than what we are. You ask anybody, who are you? Your name, your father's name, your mother's name, your address, your credit card, your bank statement. What happens is we are just stuck with all of these things that we have created. In fact, many years ago there was a beautiful advertisement. There was a cartoon character, I believe he was called Fido. And he used to be for the 7-Up advertisement. This was this guy with these hairs going straight up. And I remember a beautiful advertisement where this guy comes and there's an empty screen. And he's so traumatized and scared, empty screen, that he takes out a pencil, draws a table or chair or something, sits down on it and is now happy because now he has defined where and who he is. We are like that. In searching for who we are, we add our credit card number, email ID, Facebook ID. We keep on adding stuff so that, I know who I am. It's like, mudding up the pond and then you see nothing. And then you say, you don't see anything. Yeah, you only see mud because you have mucked it up. Nobody else. Yes, nobody else. Yeah, in fact, self-responsibility, responsibility for the self. I think if that lesson is taught to us as a human race, wow, this planet would be just an amazing planet. Amazing. Anyway, coming back to where we are. Awareness of the body, and this is fostered very beautifully by the body work in yoga, the asanas, the kriyas, the mudras, the bandhas. All of them work on helping us understand where we stand, where we sit, where we lie down, whether we are using the right or left, top or bottom, whether we are bending forward or bending back or twisting right or twisting left, when it is done with consciousness. But then, how many people are doing it with consciousness? It is to foster consciousness, but then it is like priming the pump. You have to put a little bit in. When you want to prime the pump, there has to be a bit of something to start it off. The next part is the awareness of our emotions. A bit more tough. Awareness of body itself is tough for most people. Awareness of emotions. Why do we feel the way we feel? Why do we do the things we do as a result of emotions? Now, if you want to gain control of the emotions, the best way is through the pranayama. The breath is the key to controlling emotions. I was telling you about mucking up the water. If you want to clear up the water and see things as they are, the best and most tried and trusted method is through breath work. Now, breath work doesn't mean you have to go for very complicated things. Something as simple as breathing in and breathing out for an equal count, say of 6 or 8, that itself starts to stabilize your emotions. You look at small creatures like the rat, rabbit, and other things, and you see how fast they breathe, and you look at the reactions, and you then look at the beautiful elephants and other bigger creatures who breathe so slowly, and you can go next to an elephant and jump up and down and up and down and up and down, and to just look at you and what's this featherless viper doing, and it doesn't even care. And you go next to a mouse and you just go and it's amazing. I was telling you initially, take a deep breath and count to 10. Nothing. It's basically breath awareness. Just letting things settle, letting all that muckiness settle so that you can see things as they are. And again, a very important lesson here. We normally see things not as they are, but as we are. perception is not of what is there, it's often what is within us. Because we perceive through our tinted glasses. If it's green, everything looks green. If it's blue, it looks blue. If it's pink. And it's amazing. If you want to clarify this, actually Patanjali tells us through pranayama, he says that the covering that is blocking the inner light, tatakshiyate prakasha avaranam. That prakasha, the inner light, is covered by a shroud. People translate it as a veil. I'm like, veil is so thin you can see through. It's a shroud, a dark shroud. That is just covering this light and, creating darkness. It's like one of these crazy mirrors that you have in circus tents that, warps everything. To be able to let that away so that you can see. In fact, at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna tells Krishna, he says, Lord, I can see. Finally, the scales that were covering my eyes have lifted. I can see. We do that in our own life. And, there's a confusion and finally, clarity comes, now I see. We use it even as a phrase in our language. That finally we can see. Reality dawns or something like that. Basically, you have just opened your eyes, nothing else. Everything has already been there. My mother uses a beautiful statement. She says, ignorance is the refusal to see. And it's a very beautiful, because you ignore. Why don't you know something? Because you were ignoring it. And what is ignorance? Ignore something. Why do you ignore? Because you have refused to look at that which was right in front of you all that time. And when I drew my book of yoga cartoons, that was one of the cartoons I drew. There's this guy looking for, he's on a small island with one palm tree, that typical marooned island thing. And he's looking with his telescope, not telescope, it's not a telescope you look. Periscope? I'm not getting the name. But anyway, he's looking with one of these devices to see if something's there. There's a ship right behind him, passing by. But he's looking in the wrong direction. I am going to look only in this direction. And you miss the ship going right by. How many times that happens in life? Wow, too many times. To be able to see, tatakshiyate prakasha avaranam, as Patanjali tells us, the shroud is thrown off and finally you can see the light. You have chosen to see, that's basically what it is. It's not as anything new has come, you have chosen. So you have to become aware of your body, you become aware of your emotions, and now comes the more difficult part. Awareness of the mind. Because the mind is the most amazing instrument ever created or discovered in the whole history of this planet. I don't know about the rest of the universe, but at least of this planet I can talk about. The mind is faster than anything. We think, light is the fastest thing. No, your mind. Your mind is the fastest thing, not light. The speed of light is like, kindergarten as compared to the speed of mind, which is, triple PhD sort of. The gap between both. Your mind is the super sense. It is that super sense that covers all your sensory apparatus. The mind is the connection with the cosmos through which, first of all, we have gone away from home by the process of duality, by thinking we are different. But then it is also the tool by which we can get back home by understanding that the dualities are artificial and that the oneness is the reality. Sat, Chit, Ananda. So the mind does both. And Patanjali gives a beautiful example of this. He says, the whole universe exists for two reasons. One is for you to experience, and then for your liberation. It's very beautiful. That which is there for your bhoga, your experience, but then it is also there for sustaining, maintaining and providing for your liberation, apavarga. Similarly, the mind is the cause of us coming away from that state of oneness, and then it is also the tool by which we can go back to that state of oneness. Now, of course, some people say, why should we ever move away? But that is part of what life is all about. It is a continuous expansion and contraction, ishpanda, nishpanda, the contracting and expanding universe that we understand. That's what life is all about. Shpanda, nishpanda. Shpanda is the contraction, the activation, the movement away. And then nishpanda is the relaxation, the deactivation, the coming back home. And there's this constant, it's like a heartbeat. And please understand, the heartbeat doesn't say, I love you, I love you, I love you now. When you put the stethoscope, loved up, loved up, loved up, loved up, it's very non-normatic, okay? I remember, we're going to hear the sounds of the heart. Wow, isn't that beautiful? Put the stethoscope, loved up, loved up, loved up. And it sounds like a frog with a very... No wonder the yogis said, hear the sound that is unmade, the anahata nada that lies in the heart. Go beyond your stethoscopes. Use your inner consciousness. But this mind, it can be very fickle. Very fickle. It is very restless. In fact, Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita says to Krishna, the mind is like the wind. It is so turbulent. Cannot control it. Chanchalami mana Krishna. Samadhi baladadu. So difficult to control. Vayo eva, even more than the wind, it is turbulent. What do I do about it? And Krishna says the same thing that Patanjali says. Abhyasa vairagya. Two wings that the swan needs to fly high. Abhyasa is the effort. Self-effort, not somebody doing it on our behalf. No. Self-effort is abhyasa, and vairagya is the objectivity. I was telling you the gap that we need to have between reactivity and responsibility. That gap is vairagya. That gap is the space in which consciousness, that window where consciousness can come in and see things as they are, rather than as we think they are. Abhyasa is the shpanda. Abhyasa is the doing. Making the effort. Vairagya is letting go of the effort. It is the opposite. The shpanda, nishpanda. Just as the universe has the excitation, relaxation, coupling going on, this is understood as the dance of Shiva and Shakti. The male-female principles of the universe. Again, there is this constant interaction going on, which comes down into yoga as the concept of hatha yoga. The ha and the ta. The ha, the solar energies, the ta, the lunar energies. These equal and opposite energies that we need to balance on our way back home. Now, abhyasa, for me, again the message of the Bhagavad Gita, a message which I think is very relevant in modern times in our life. Do your best and then leave the rest. Now 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, okay? And you can summarize it in that. Do your best, leave the rest. And people say, wow, this is great. And I've surrendered to God, yes. And I've left the rest. Have you done your best? No. People forget this first part. The first part is most important. And that is why when Patanjali says relaxation of effort, it is not, do not make effort. It is you make the effort and then transcend it. You do your best and then leave the rest. It's not that you don't do anything and you sit there waiting for God to come and help you. And then you say, oh, God doesn't answer my prayers. How many people say that? Wow. A lot. God doesn't answer my prayers. And you know what I tell them? Don't you know that no is also an answer? You have prayed to God and God said no, that's all. But we are like, oh, God hasn't answered my prayers. Yeah. Because it was all, give me, give me, give me, give me, give me, do this for me, do this for me. Leave the rest part maybe, but not the, do your best. I love the movie Bruce Almighty. I have my own list of recommended viewing that students in the 6-month course at the ashram get to know. And I love this fact that this guy, Jim Carrey is in the middle of the road and he calls upon God and a truck runs over him. And when he gets to meet God, he says, why did you save me? And God says, the least you could have been doing is being out of the way of the truck. Huh? It's just amazing. I am going to test God by jumping in front of a truck. Seriously, we human beings, featherless bipeds is a good term. Beautiful term. I don't know whether it was Plato or Socrates or Aristotle, but one of those guys, okay. All of them are equally good. They hit some amazing truths. No wonder they were not liked, no wonder they were sort of thrown in jail, and no wonder they were given poison, because they're just too. Even today, they are still too far ahead for us. Okay, what we understand of them is even when I think of Patanjali, I think that way. That Patanjali is even today too far ahead of our times, and that's why we haven't yet understood him. Coming back to this. Do your best, leave your rest, leave the rest. Is again that Shvanda Nishvanda, that excitation, relaxation, coupling that is going on. This is what the universe is about, expansion, contraction, all of that. And once you're aware of the body, aware of your emotions, aware of your mind, because this mind, coming back to it, is often described in a very beautiful manner. It is said that the mind is like a drunken monkey. Okay, now you know what a monkey is like, and give it a few pegs, okay, not too much, not completely swooshed or whooshed or whatever is there. Just enough to sort of take away the inhibitory aspects of the brain, okay. So a drunk monkey, then they say bitten by a scorpion. Okay, now that really gives you an even more vivid. Drunken monkey bitten by a scorpion, and then I like to add to it, on a hot tin roof. Okay, that is just so that you have a mental imagery to go with this concept of what the mind's like. And now we want to control this mind. We think, I am sitting and meditating. It's beautiful. Very difficult. Very difficult, because it's like the student who went to the teacher and said, what do I do? And the teacher said, meditate on anything but monkeys. And the guy for the next 5 days couldn't do anything but think about monkeys. You have to be very careful about that, right? This mind, for me, it's not just, this concept of a monkey is very good, because what happens with a monkey is that if it has a sore, it has a wound, it has infection or something, what it does is it keeps on scratching on it. It doesn't let it heal. Now, in case you had any idea, misinformation, you had a misguided idea that doctors heal you. I must say, no doctor has ever healed a single patient through any of these therapies, okay? It is the patient healing themselves. Okay? The patient heals themselves while we doctors keep them amused and then give them the bill at the end. This is actually what we do. People have a fracture and they go and they say, yes, the doctor put me in a plaster of Paris POP cast and healed my hand. You know what the doctor did was put the POP cast so that you would not, like a monkey, be every 2 minutes checking, has the bone healed, has the bone healed, has the bone healed. We would do that. So the POP was just so that you cannot hurt yourself. Just so that you cannot hurt yourself while you are healing yourself. The doctor didn't come and sit there, heal, cell heal, bone heal. No. Your body has that amazing genetic code to heal itself. In fact, it is said that we could heal anything if we could just stop every 2 seconds doing that. If we could just stop that. But this mind, like the monkey, is like, liver, have you healed? No. Does it still pain? Yeah. Whatever was happening, you're just... It's like that guy whose liver used to grow, Prometheus, whose liver used to grow every day, and then the eagles or hawks would come and eat it. He was chained up because he did something, gave light or fire to human beings, and so the gods were unhappy with him and chained him up. And so every day his liver would grow, and then every day it would be eaten, and every day it would grow. Just remember, those stories are not false. At one level, you can grow your liver back if you just leave it alone. And leave it alone is very difficult, because the moment I say, don't think about your liver, I spoiled it. And that's what we doctors do, because we don't understand the power of the mind. And we start, oh, you have this disease, oh my God. The moment I do that, the patient's like, okay, God, I'm condemned. Because my reaction was, instead of saying, you have this disease, oh, it's okay, fine, no problem. You are going to be able to manage it, come on, let's do it. Instead of that, I'm like, oh my God, what I've done is already I have set in motion something. Or then, I read off the statistics. Oh, you have this, well, this type of cancer has 80% chances of dying, that type of cancer maybe 90%. And, we will do surgery, but then you have 65% of not recovering. What I've done is that I have just, and I'm not against this form of medicine, because this is how it is evolved. But what I feel is that, you have put in these negative thoughts. Oh, because what happens is 2 things happen. One is that most of the time, the negative thoughts have more power. So the moment you say, there is only 65% chances of survival, the person starts, that means 35% chances of non-survival. And they start focusing on that 35, not looking at 65. You have immediately set in motion this 35, and nature, the universe says, oh, that is what you want. Here I give it to you. Because you have asked. It's like, people who, walk out the door and say, I'm going to have an accident. I know I'm going to have an accident. I know I'm going to have an accident. And then it happens, and then they, why me, poor me, God is against me. And you are like, so one has to be very careful with the mind, because what you set up, the universe says, if every day you are saying, I'm going to fall down, I'm going to fall down, I'm going to fall down, the universe says, okay, fine. Looks like you like this track of music, let's play a bit more of it. And the God is up there, the DJ. Oh, you like that track? And you know what? I don't know too many doctors who understand this. I don't know. Often, I feel quite an outcast in my own way, but I'm not made to feel that way. In fact, the medical community supports me very beautifully, and in fact, my fellow doctors, especially the psychiatrists, send a lot of patients to me, because they know, he's also mad, so no problem. He's not bad, but he's mad. It's one of those things. This is the first thing I talk to my patients about. And I use the word my in the sense of just so that you get a feel of it. Because I have the patients who come to me and they're like, doctor, my diabetes. And I'm like, what? My diabetes, my hypertension, my back pain. And I'm like, why have you started to own it? It has become your belonging, it has become your property. And you know what happens? The moment something becomes our property, something which we think belongs to us, we don't want to let go of it. Because now it's mine. And it's horrible, horrible. This identification that occurs that I always tell them, I say, start saying the diabetes, the hypertension, the cancer. Start to make it feel uneasy to be with you. The moment you say, my friend, what has happened is that you have created a bond. My family, you have created a bond. Now, I'm not telling you to go out saying the friend and the family. Huh? Maybe the Queen can get away with that. Huh? We and I don't know. It's usually the we, right?
One does.
Okay. One has to be careful because this is the most amazing thing that the mind does. What the mind has done is created this identity where I am a diabetic, I am a cancer patient, I am an immunocompromised patient. What has happened is that you have created an identity just as bad as I am my credit card number, I am my address, I am my Facebook ID. Yeah, I am my Facebook ID. And I was joking about all these guys who have had their portraits painted in the museum. And that was their Facebook of those days. Changing the profile, and it took a long time to make a profile and change it in those days. And imagine those poor artists who were painting it. At the end of it, if the person didn't like it, most probably you didn't have a head left. So you better made it, a bit flattering to the person you were doing it. Jeremy's dad is an amazing photographer, and I think some of the best photos of me any place in the world have been by your dad. And I cannot forget that time we went to St. Fagans, and oh my God, 5 years ago now. Still, so that's 5 years and 1,000 photographs at least a month. So that's a lot of photographs that your father's beaten out. Huh? You should tell him that.
I will.
You should. And the last time when he took at the concert and the dance performance, the same we have this tendency to identify, and usually what happens is that we tend to take the lowest common denominator. We don't usually take I am the divine. Okay, now watch out. I am God, so I shoot out of you. Not that. One has to be very careful with that also. But this I am the divine, I am the universe, I am Satchit Anandam, I am bliss. We don't identify. We identify with, I am this depressed rag, doormat on which everybody walks over. What happens is we identify with the lowest common denominator, and then what happens is we stick to that. It's very difficult, and no amount of antidepressants, anti-hypertensives, anti-diabetics, anti-cancer drugs, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, surgery is going to correct that. Because you have identified it. What will happen is that the drug is just going to suppress it for some time. You just suppress, you repress it, you hide it under the carpet, and then one day your carpet's flying. It's, so high up there. And you are the most elevated Mr., Mrs., Miss Dust, or whatever, because it is so elevated by the carpet, with all the junk under it. To be able to clear this away, it's not easy. And that's why I'm telling you, the mind can be so fickle, it can be devious because it enjoys this. That is why, you find in human tendencies, sadism, sadomasochism. Why do you find that? Because the mind sort of enjoys this. Okay, now I've got them where I want them. I want my little finger, or whatever they say.
Wrapped around my little finger.
Yeah. Well, Krishna lifts the little finger, he lifts the mountain on his little finger, interestingly. So one has to be very careful. And we think, I'm going to sit quietly and my mind is going to shut down. He's going to say, okay, fine. Now these people have got into something called yoga. What can I do? Okay, I'll make them think they're enlightened. It creates these false experiences. And you say, I am there. And then you stop. You stop searching. It's the red herrings. Red herrings? Yeah. It puts out the red herrings, these false things. Yeah, I'm enlightened. Oh, I can touch my head to my backbone. Wow. What it does is, it does this, and then, it knows that it can stop you there. It initially tries by saying, you don't have time for yoga. Or yoga's not for you. It's fine in hot India, but not in cold, Wales. It's not really the in thing. It tries all of these ideas and then, but you feel tired after it. Your muscles ache. It's so tough to go there. Why should you have someone tell you what to do and how to breathe? Come on, you know how to breathe. It tries all these tricks. And then if you get through all that, you say, okay, this is not working, what next? Okay, fine. Let me give them a few positive things where they think that they are stuck. And it's like watching a movie and thinking, a movie of South India and saying, yeah, I'm in South India, wow. And so you just sit here doing nothing. It does a lot of that. And that is why one needs to understand the mind is a tool, but then one needs to sort of go a bit above it if you are to guide it. And that is where the next state, awareness of awareness itself. Now that is quite a state of being. To be aware of the body itself is difficult. To be aware of the emotions is more difficult. To be aware of the mind and its functioning is even more difficult. But then as you slowly grow in consciousness has its own momentum. Just as gravity has its own power, consciousness has its own momentum. And as you start growing, you start to get sucked into this higher momentum. And then you start to get into one of these, like an autopilot type of things that starts to elevate you. That is where that awareness of awareness itself comes in. Now this is something which Swamiji used to talk about, right from the 1950s when he was teaching in Trinidad and later in the 60s in Canada, 70s in India. And then Amma, my mother, came to study with him and she added the fifth awareness to this. Where she said, before all of these four happen, we first have to be aware of how unaware we have been or how unaware we are. Now this realization which she added the fifth, or you could call the pre-step in awareness, is to first be aware. To first know that, fine, okay, I am lacking awareness of body, emotions, mind. Let me start working. That awareness, and it's not intellectual, please understand, it is something which you experience. And this happened not by her great meditative sitting and not by her deep penance in the high caves of the Himalayas or no. It happened one day when she was with my father. And as a student, she was very gung-ho about attaining liberation, and she was up to him and like virtually holding his collar of his orange kurta and, Swamiji, I want enlightenment, I want liberation, I want this awareness of awareness itself. And my father said, Meenakshi, will you please stop stepping on my toes? Because, in her zest for enlightenment, she was actually stamping on his toes while asking him the question. That's when Amma came upon this thing that we need to first be aware of how unaware we are before we start on the journey. Now, these are people who have lived the life that I'm talking about. When we talk about yoga as a way of life, it is a way of life in which every moment we try to be as conscious and aware as we can be. Now, conscious doesn't mean, oh yeah, I'm conscious and I can see all of you and know that you are here. That is a very mundane level of consciousness. We are talking about consciousness as a sense of awareness that is multidimensional, looking at the same point from different angles. That what is this being perceived not just by me, but all of you? How are you perceiving this moment? When I start to have an all-encompassing level of consciousness, that is what consciousness means in yoga. It's not just my point of view, but what is actually happening to, nowadays in movies you have very good examples of this, where especially it started off, I think, in The Matrix, where they'll have an action scene and then suddenly the camera goes 360 degrees with them suspended mid-air. It's a very beautiful technique which really, when I saw that, the first time I saw that technique, I think was in The Matrix, and I think that may have been the first time they used it. Maybe some old Kung Fu movies, they may have tried it out a bit before that. But that is what we are looking at. To be able to sort of stop the moment and take that 360 degree, not just here, but this way. So 360, multiple 360 degree of a moment. Now that is the consciousness we are talking about. Not just that I can see that you are here. I am conscious, when I examine a patient in the bed who has come in or in the casualty emergency, the first thing they say, the patient is conscious, alert and well-oriented. And what it means is just that they can look at me, and if I say, hello, how are you? They say, okay, I'm in pain, or, what time is it? And they say, okay, it's 10 o'clock, and what day is it? It's Thursday. Yes. just to make sure that. And then I say, yes, Dr. Ananda is conscious, alert, and aware. I use these terms, but it means something very mundane. It's like saying, yeah, we are human beings because we look like it. But then, are we really human? That's the next part. Or are we just these featherless bipeds in nice clothes? We learn to dress up. Featherless bipeds in clothes. They forgot the clothes part. They just said featherless bipeds. Clothes and makeup. That's a good one. Then when you have this every moment, that becomes yoga. That becomes yoga as a way of life. And for me, life and yoga are basically synonymous. Because life is something that every moment you experience. And with every moment in life you grow, you start to learn, and this process, the importance of life being this entire journey from birth to death, and not just, you are born and, you die. No, it's not just a goal. If death is the goal, let's get to the goal fast. No, it's not. That the whole goal is the process of the journey, that living it. And yoga is like that. Though we say, Kaivalya is the goal, I think that more important is what you learn along the way to Kaivalya, not just Kaivalya. It is the final point. But what happens on the way is so important. And again, a very beautiful play on words that comes up is that when one lives life as one should, with consciousness, awareness, as a human being, fulfilling our dharma, using in the right manner righteousness, responsibility, then we are living life as it should, L-I-F-E. But then if we do not do that, we start to live it reverse. And L-I-F L-I-V-E, you reverse it, E-V-I-L. It is amazing, okay, you can call it coincidence. For me, nothing is a coincidence. Nothing. When you live life as it should be lived as a human being, that is what the divine is about, that is what goodness is about. And the moment you do not do that, E-V-I-L, it's not something outside, it is how we live our life. And if you have lived, L-I-V-E-D, your life, and if you have not lived it as you should, D-E-V-I-L, it's not outside, it's in us. And to be able to understand that, because religion, for me, organized religion of any form, it wants a few more sheep, it wants a few more goats to be part of the herd. Whereas yoga says, you find your divinity and attain it, manifest it. And that is why one needs to understand this is a journey from the self to the self. No one can make it for us. No one can do it for us. And I often think if I really wanted to make a lot of money, I should find a way that I can do the yoga practice and someone else can have the benefit, and then I can charge them for it. People would gladly pay a lot if they could get the benefit of Surya Namaskar by me doing it for them. Must find a way. No one can do it for you. Huh? It's like saying, you eat the apple and let me have the nutrition of the apple. Sorry, it doesn't happen that way. And this is where the proof of the pudding lies in the eating. Something like that. And I have all these phrases running around my head always. And I like to check them up now and then when I have proper English speaking people, because my mother was my first English teacher and she never thought I could ever learn to speak or write English. And she was surprised that I'm not too bad. 22nd book now in the press, so that's not too bad. Oh my God. Someone does it, not me. That's for sure, because I think in Tamil, that's my problem. And then I have to translate it into English and then speak it. But maybe that helps the responsibility part rather than the activity. But coming back to a last few statement here. A very beautiful statement I happened to see on Facebook today. And I find a lot of truth from so many places. It is said in our scriptures that let noble thoughts come to us from all directions. So I don't care where it is from. If noble thoughts come, let us be open and humble enough to receive them. And on Facebook often people give some nice things. But there was a statement, they were attributing it to Deepak Chopra, who was just basically packaged the old wisdom of India in his own words. It's not anything new, but he just packaged it very well. Where he was saying religion is all about someone else's experience, whereas spirituality is about one's own experience. And for me this is a very beautiful statement, because Einstein talking about religion and science and saying one is blind without the other and one is lame without the other. I said, why did he talk about religion? It should have been spirituality, because for me there's a big difference between religion and spirituality. And WHO, the World Health Organization, struggled to find what is spiritual health without it being religious. They were trying to really find it, and spiritual health is when you are at ease with yourself, that's all, nothing else. If you are at ease with yourself, you are spiritually healthy. Now you cannot really be spiritually unhealthy, because the spirit can never be unhealthy. But you can fall away from spiritual health. That is possible. So there cannot be a negative aspect of spiritual health, but you can fall away from it. And then you regain your balance, because when I've been talking about this middle path, about alignment, about balance, please understand it is not that You attain it and then once and for all and we live happily ever after as in fairy tales. The hero and heroine get married and live happily ever after. The story ends there? No. In real life, the story starts there. They get married and then starts all the story. No, not end. But, the definition of health which WHO, the World Health Organization, gave us is a state of well-being. A state of well-being which is at the physical, social, and then finally they added the spiritual aspect. But the moment I say health is a state of well-being, you say, wow, let's get there and stay there. But people think, oh, it is something to attain, and then they forget you have to maintain it. And it is more difficult to maintain than even to attain. And you want to know the best example of that? Any number one sportsman. The sports people, to get to number one, they struggle, but then it is a bigger, more difficult time to maintain it. And Messi as one of the top, if not the top footballer of the world today, and for me, maybe even he's close to all time. For him to get there is fine, but then every match you expect him to have one of the spectacular goals. And if not, Messi was not really up to the mark today. Like, come on, that day was better than 90% of the people who have been playing, but what has happened is you have set that standard. And this is the issue with health. You have to get to the state of well-being, and that is why I say it is not just state of well-being, it's a dynamic state of well-being. So there will be challenges. One day you will feel down, one day feel up, there will be falling and getting up. But the idea is how well, how efficiently, how with least hindrance you can get back to where you were. It's like walking the tightrope. You do fall down, but then how well can you get up? In South India, in Tamil, we have a beautiful statement. It says, to fall down, but to get up without sand on your moustache. So that nobody knows you fell down. The idea is that, pick yourself up so fast and in such a way that nobody knows you fell down. We all go off balance. People think, you are the commonest thing. You are a yoga teacher and you are not well. You're like, come on, I'm a human. And the other one is, oh, you're a doctor? How can you not be well? Yeah, come on, I'm a doctor, but fine, I'm a human. And the worst part is when my wife is asked that. Your husband's a doctor and you're not well? As if, you get married to a doctor and marry a doctor and health comes on its own or something. Usually it's the opposite. He brings all the infections home. But it's not that you don't fall down. That is why a spiritually healthy person, if I may use that term, is not someone who doesn't fall sick. Is not someone who's never unhappy. You're supposed to be practicing yoga, but you just lost your temper. Come on, yeah, I'm human. But how well can I come back to my state of balance? That is what health is all about. That is what yoga is all about. Well, that's what life's all about. I think I should stop there because got to a point of time that some of you have to get back home, and I just have to run around 20 yards from here and then jump in bed. And I get fed also. Whereas some of you have to go home and cook for yourself, and so I'll stop at this point. And all I just want to remind you is that yoga is not something separate from life. Yoga is life and life is yoga. And the more we understand that every posture you do, every breathing technique you do, every contemplative practice you do, well, all of it ultimately is leading us back to that state of balance, a state of balance which is our natural state. Balance, health, happiness is our natural state. And when we are not having that, we are moved away from it, that's all. And it's it's no big thing to, oh, I moved away from it, what do I do? God is bad. No. It's okay. Let me regain it. Let me do what I need to do. Do I have to make changes in my life patterns, my lifestyle? Let me do it. Do I need to change my diet a bit? Do it. Do I need to drink a bit more water? Do it. Do I need to decrease my caffeine? Okay, do it. Do I need to increase my caffeine? Okay, do it. See, the thing is about looking into one's life and finding the answer. What brings you back to that state of equilibrium, that dynamic state of health? And the moment one starts to live life as we should as a human being, with consciousness, awareness, empathy, understanding, because the more understanding you give, the more you get. The more respect you give, the more you get. The more gratitude you feel, the more you get. Well, the more love you give, the more love you get back. But never expect it from the same person. I gave you love, you did not give me love. No. You give love and it comes back tenfold. But we are so focused on the one person to whom we gave it that we forget the 10 people who are giving it to us. I gave you respect, you didn't. Okay, fine. But it came back from 100 people. And this is where one needs that 360 degrees. 360 to the power of 360 basically is what I'm talking about, mathematically. That is the perception we need. And my wish this evening is that all of us grow, all of us begin to have that perception of expansive consciousness, and that we all are the best we can be in this lifetime. That's the least we can do as a human being. So thank you very much. We close with a universal prayer, wishing for the same for all living beings and all levels of existence. Samasta Sukino